Hello and welcome to the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, aka the Legendary Lady podcast. And for this special live stream edition, we're going to be talking all things DC because just recently James Gunn has come out and unveiled the DCU sort of slate of projects for the next couple of years. And there are some familiar faces on there, and then there are some things that I've never heard of before. So we're basically kind of go through it, maybe even chronologically, if Amy, our note taker, can put it into the right order, and just kind of talk about what we think about this sort of future direction of the DC cinematic universe that's been kind of in flux for several years, and the last couple years has kind of felt a little bit adrift, and now we have a new person in charge, and he's got a big bullet point plan, apparently. So what do we think of this new plan, and is he going to be able to fix it? I think maybe, like, let's start just like before we dig into every single project he announced, because there was a ton of them. What did you think, like, overall, like wholesale, when you saw like the full slate? Were you like, yeah, that seems great? Were you like, I don't like it? Or were you just kind of in the middle?
I want to say in the middle because there's some stuff I really don't like. And then there's other stuff I'm like, oh, I want to see where that goes. And I don't know if there was anything that I was like, whoa, I literally can't wait for that. Um, yeah, so I'm definitely more in the middle, maybe towards the more negative side.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, obviously, I don't think it's telling that there was one project that was announced that I was really excited for, and that's
right.
Supergirl. I also do a little podcast about it called Supergirl Radio, and we
No.
actually read Woman of Tomorrow, the comic book, and we really enjoyed it. So when I was like, oh, first off, they're doing a Supergirl movie. She hasn't had a movie since the 80s. They didn't let her have one after that. And it's also like based on a comic run that I really enjoyed. So that was like A plus, A plus. I think that Supergirl should move to the head of the line. I think it should be the first thing that they work on, because we've gotten a lot of these slates announced and then we never see the projects ever again. So, like, why don't we just start with Supergirl? Let's start strong. The rest of
I'm,
it, I was a little bit like, okay.
I'm excited to talk about Supergirl because I don't like that run. I hate
Ooh,
that run. Yeah.
fascinating. Really?
Yeah, I really don't
Really?
like that run at all. And again, nothing like obviously that's just personal opinions. Like I'm not going against anything. It's
Oh, yeah, yeah.
just not my cup of tea. I did not like the opening of that book. I didn't, and also because I've read a lot of Tom King stuff in the past and it's very
Mhm.
similar to everything else he's written. I'm like, oh, this doesn't really feel like a Supergirl story. It just feels like the characters he normally would write, but I guess it's like a almost a Supergirl skin. Like, you're on like Fortnite and you
Oh,
look skins.
that's
It
yeah,
feels like that's all it felt like.
that's really interesting because I haven't personally read almost any Tom King. So this was
Mhm.
like kind of the first introduction I had to him, and I was like, "Oh, interesting take on the character. Space
Very
westerns. That's
different.
fun." Yeah.
And her being like drunk in space, I'm like, I don't really like that.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a tougher take on the
For Supergirl.
Supergirl character.
Okay, I have finished listening. I've put together the chronology. I was
Are
trying to
you
get
ready,
together
me?
the list of the chronology, and what's interesting is Supergirl's literally all the way at the end,
Yeah, I noticed that
like
too.
right before Swamp Thing. And if you
Mhm.
listen really closely, so those of you who've not seen it, there is an actual video of James Gunn explaining all of this. So there's all these articles out, but I got to give him props. There's nothing more effective than a straight up 6-minute video laying out his plan. It felt like a really solid elevator pitch. And he even put in, like, not only are we doing these characters and these stories, but this is the vibe of it. Like, he describes the Paradise Lost as like Game of Thrones meets Themyscira, which I'm very excited about. But then he talks about how dark the Supergirl film is, and then he says it, quote, leads into Swamp Thing. And then he describes
Yeah.
Swamp Thing as straight up horror,
Ooh.
which is going to be very fun. But I don't know, I kind of like
Which
the,
I'm most
like,
excited for.
Swamp Thing.
which I know you are. And I have to tell you, if they go down the like spooky things taking over other people things, like I'm super into This Is Us right now, and I find it absolutely terrifying. So if they want to keep going that way,
Not This
with
Is
like
Us,
swamp
Last
You
of
mean
Us.
The Last of Us?
Yeah, like, wait, I didn't know This Is Us was a
There's
very
not.
scary
There's
show.
nothing scarier than Mandy Moore in that old age makeup.
The Last of Us. Although that would be hilarious. That's an SNL skit right there. They
Somebody
show up and they're
sure.
like, "We're here to film our stuff,"
confusing.
and it's just a bunch of people with like really terrible swamp makeup all over them. That'd be very funny.
I think they did a Last of Us skit on SNL this week because Pedro
They did. It
Pascal
was really
on.
funny.
Yeah,
It was
Was
the
on
return of, it
show.
was like the Mario Kart
The Mario
spin-off.
one. Oh, that
it was really funny.
That was fantastic.
And really good production quality.
Really good production quality. Like
Go SNL.
we got to go to Rainbow Road.
I loved all the like the floating critic lines on the top.
That were like, this doesn't make
This
sense.
Isn't it?
Definitely the wrong choice for this.
But yeah, so it sounds like the end of this is gonna get dark. So it goes Flash, which the Flash movie he said is a great movie and resets the whole universe. So
The
it's gonna
best
be
movie I've
Flashpoint.
ever seen. I think it's
He's-
really funny how much everybody is hyping up the Flash movie because one has to assume that that movie is basically like a hard reset on the universe. And so they can't get rid of this movie, even though the Ezra Miller situation continues to get like more and more thorny. And everybody's like, well, you got rid of Batgirl, but like Ezra Miller's out there like kidnapping people. Well, what's happening there?
What's interesting too, you still have that with Aquaman as well, and obviously, like, you know, the Amber Heard stuff is maybe very different from the Ezra Miller stuff, but like supposedly, and maybe they're trying to cut her out, but it's just like you still also have Aquaman and Amber Heard's problematic, so it's just like I don't know.
I wonder, but I feel like her stuff isn't it like it's problematic, but it's not.
It's a lot more
really?
allegation than I guess.
Yeah.
Ezra Miller, but it's just also interesting, like how much conflict they have with these upcoming releases. But then, like, why Batgirl, where you got freaking Brendan Fraser in that movie? It's like he's a good guy, you know?
Exactly.
So it looks like Flash is going to reset everything with Flashpoint, which, admittedly, if they do go by the Flashpoint comic, they can work a lot. They can work a lot of things. You don't actually need the Flash in a lot of that. You just need him for the end. Like, you can do a lot of other stories in that movie that don't actually relate to The Flash, which
Well, aren't they
is
gonna have,
ironic
like-
given its name, but I'm okay with that.
Aren't they going to have like 10 Batmans in that movie?
Probably.
You at least know there's one.
Every
There's at least
possible Batman, I think, is in that movie.
All the
So.
Lois Lanes are in that movie. They're all
That's
just
true.
They do like the Spider-Man meme. They're like, "What? What?"
Hmm?
And then starts Commandos or Commanders? Creature
Commandos.
Okay.
I had to
And-
go look it up.
This one, James Gunn said, is a really big deal because one of the things he's very passionate about in his elevator pitch is that he really, really wants to create a world where the DC universes cinematically and TV-wise are connected. So he said it's very important for him that the characters
Wonder where you
who
got
are
that
animated.
idea from.
Huh?
Hmm.
I know.
I wonder where you got that idea from.
I have no
A puzzler.
idea. He's sitting there watching the DC universe before being like, you guys really are just mucking this up. Like, there are so many better ways to make this happen. But his thing is that the voice actors will be the same as the live action. The animated characters will look like the live action characters. So it's a good possibility that we'll meet the animated characters long before we actually meet the live action versions of the characters. Then it's going to go to Waller, which is the Amanda Waller spinoff series with Viola Davis set to star, which takes place apparently between season 1 and 2 of Peacemaker, but season 2 of Peacemaker's not happening.
Season 2 of Peacemaker, I think, is a question mark, because I don't know if you've noticed, but like in that video and in some of the articles that have come out, it's like written by James Gunn, directed by James Gunn. And it's like, when's this man gonna sleep? So I know he like wrote all of the first season of Peacemaker.
Yeah, he directed it all too.
He directed it all. So I think he might want to do the same thing with season 2, but like given this new schedule,
He
like
has no time.
when's that gonna happen? Yeah, exactly.
He might have to give some things to people.
He
And Peacemaker,
might have to
Peacemaker's
delegate
great.
a bit.
He might. I just think it's interesting that we are getting Amanda. I would consider Amanda Waller probably is going to be very much a season 2 of Peacemaker anyways, because it's so connected.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that as much. But yeah, do we want to break it down project by project as we're going along?
Yeah,
Do
I love
we
it.
want to talk about Commandos? So Commandos, like you said, it's it's animated and it's going to be connected to live action. And his characters no one knows, so we know he's good at doing that. I'm curious about this one, but it's hard to get excited because again, it's characters nobody knows, so it's just like, okay, like I'm sure it's gonna be good when I see it, but I don't know if it's like can't wait to go see this one.
There's a character in here, it says, named Eric Frankenstein and quote Bride of Frankenstein, who's the protagonist.
I think
Yeah, of course.
They're from the horror. I don't know if I'm getting confused with Marvel and DC here, but there's like horror of suspense, and I don't know if that's a DC book or a Marvel book, but they probably came from that. Let me see what comic book that is.
He sounds like he's very into the idea of making this very like horror vibey based. Like he sounds very okay stepping into the dark
DC
aspects of this right off the bat.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm game.
Now, Kat, do you have any familiarity with like the creature commandos? Because I don't know any of them. But that like little creature, that little weasel creature, he's got some crazy eyes.
Like I said, I think they're from very golden age DC, from what I can gravitate towards. But I think that's what's interesting about it. Again, no one knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy was. Even like people who read comics, they were just like from the 70s. They're like, okay, there's that like cult team that people like, and now they're a mainstream name. I don't know if this is gonna have the same effect because I think it's gonna be a TV show first. It's like, oh, is it really like even
it's like an animated
Peacemaker,
TV show.
There's not a lot of people that watch Peacemaker,
Yeah, I think that's true. Peacemaker was really great and like really funny and a good show, but I think it doesn't like enter the cultural consciousness.
Not The Last of Us.
Yeah, it's not listen, it's not The Last of Us. It's not This Is Us. But but I don't think it's going to have the same like, everybody knows who it is unless it's like a movie.
Mark mentions it's gods and monsters. They have gods, Superman, Batman, and the Amazons. They have monsters, the Creature, Commandos, Swamp Thing, Damien.
Damien! Brutal to have him on the same level as the monsters.
Yeah, there's a lot of good articles on Screen where we could really break it down. I think for the sake of us kind of chatting about everything that's going on. There's a Constantine. I see Constantine. The word Constantine is in this article. Hold on.
In what article?
Oh no, it says they're not.
Are you excited?
They're not.
I got excited for a real hot second. Like I was like, let's move on. And then I saw the word Constantine and got excited.
And you're like, yeah.
But it literally said, though, the Creature Commandos are not as recognizable as Constantine. An animated show for the DCU is a promising start. It sounds like it is going to have kind of a little bit of a horror aspect to it. Like it is going to be a little bit darker, almost like Justice League dark aspect. I hope, I know that not everybody loves the Justice League dark animated films, but I have to, in my opinion, I think it's some of the strongest stuff that the DCU has put out in the past. So hopefully James Gunn is kind of maybe tapping into that and saying, hey, these seem to be doing really well, even if no one's watching them. So let's kind of at least jump on that bandwagon, because that bandwagon at least seems to be going somewhere.
For sure. Yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes, honestly. And I knew they were supposed to make a Justice League Dark movie in the past,
And then,
they were supposed to do a lot of things in the past.
They were
supposed to do a lot of things. Let's just assume that this is on the list of crimes that the Wave Rider is imprisoned for. Like it's all of our characters. They're all like, so you guys ruined the DC universe. You guys messed it up somehow. Probably Ray's fault somehow. And that's one of the reasons that they're currently imprisoned in time jail at the moment.
Feels right.
Okay, so you have Creature Commandos, then Waller, and then the thing that James Gunn says basically is the new start for his new DC world is Superman Legacy.
Yeah, which is exciting. People think it's going to be based on All-Star Superman, which is, kind of the biggest Superman story there is. And I love All-Star Superman. I think it's called All-Star Superman. It's Grant Morrison. Right, Tim. We'll talk more about Grant Morrison later. But it's just one of the biggest Superman stories ever written. It was All-Star Superman.
What's sort of the tagline? Like, what's it about?
It's literally just about Superman being Superman, which is the weirdest thing to say. It's Lex Luthor versus Superman, but the way it's written, it's just a well-written story. It's Lex versus Superman. The dialogue's really good.
I was seeing that it had things that was like just literally how does Superman be Superman in his normal day-to-day life, which strikes me as a very Cat thing that you would like.
I'm
Yes,
so
that's
excited
true.
for it. I'll say it with All Star Superman too. There's a lot of memorable like visuals. Like there's a visual of Clark Kent tripping into like his Superman costume. So he's tripping and like he's getting dressed to be Superman because like Clark, he obviously makes up the idea that he can, he trips. But then I think in this story, it's been a while. They actually say, no, it's actually true. He always trips. That's just who Clark Kent is, even if he's Superman. He could be clumsy. But yeah, no, I'm excited for that one. I'm really excited for James Gunn's take on that version of Superman. Because I think that's the part we haven't seen since the 70s is just like that actual duality. Because Henry Cavill's Superman is very Superman. There's not a lot of Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And all
that's
these other
true.
shows are very Clark. Like you think of like Smallville, it's like
Yeah.
very much about Clark Kent.
That's a good
Yeah, I
point.
think
You
I
don't
think
really get
most of the
balance.
Superman media has really leaned one way or the other way. So like Smallville was very Clark. He was like, I don't know, I don't want to fly. And then the Henry Cavill movies were very like he was very Superman-y. He like kind of had his stuff together, I feel like. So I would agree that like that sort of like the both sides situation hasn't really been in the Superman media in a little while.
Okay, so
sure.
next on the list is lanterns. And the gals know I have to step out for like 5 minutes and I will be right back while you guys chat about lanterns.
Great.
Hey, I'm here to talk about the Green Lanterns because I
As
remember you guys did not know there was multiple lanterns,
well,
right? Like there was
as
multiple.
as always, I'm going to air my controversial opinion, which is that I don't care for Green Lantern. I just
This is what
I
I'm excited for.
can't get myself to care about Green Lantern. I've tried. I've watched stuff. I'm always just like, eh. Maybe it's all the different colors. It kind of feels like a mood board. It's like the premise of Green Lantern is like one of those mood rings that you put on. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's yellow. You're envious or whatever. I can't can't quite get there with Green Lantern, but maybe this is what's going to change my mind.
I hope so. I think it's interesting that Top Gun was one of the biggest movies of last year, and Hal Jordan is just a Top Gun
Oh yeah,
character.
totally.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, why not just make a Top Gun movie, but with DC Comics?
Going right to the danger zone.
Right, and then with Jon Stewart, he's the more popular mainstream Lantern because of the Justice League animated show. I'm not a huge Jon Stewart fan. I always because I like him from the anime series. Like I think he's cool, but when you read him in the comics, they tend not to do much with Jon Stewart. Like I hope that could change with the movie because obviously the animated series made him a cool character. But I feel like there are other interesting Lantern characters like Jessica Cruz. She actually was a power ring. And this is where things get complicated. There's the
Uh-oh.
Injustice League, where it's like they're the evil version of the Justice League. And
Yeah.
Power Ring was the evil Green Lantern. Jessica Cruz was this girl who saw a lot of people die and locked herself in a closet for like 10 years. She didn't want to leave her
Oh,
apartment. And then she ends up getting the power ring where, because it's the opposite of willpower is fear. So she's like scared of everything. So she actually has the willpower to go against the power ring and become a Green Lantern, which I think is so cool and such a cool origin story. It's like she could be a cool character for and Kyle Rayner is a fan favorite from the comics because he was a 90s Lantern. So like a lot of people grew up on him. So I would hope that there's more Green Lanterns to explore because that's like the worry. As I know the original show was supposed to explore more Green Lanterns, and it seems like they're only focusing on the two for these. And honestly, in my opinion, I think the two that have been explored enough. Like I know enough about
yeah,
them.
it's so I'm looking at this Den of Geek article and it says Lanterns is about both Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart as they uncover a dark mystery. Gunn and Safran teased it as having ominous True Detective vibes with the pair as space cops and Earth as their precinct. This will have implications for the wider story being told throughout the DCU. But what do you think about the idea of like a Green Lantern story, but it's also got like time is a flat circle vibes?
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see a detective story with Earth because again, this is like usually Green Lanterns is usually a space opera. It's usually about space. So to see it like, oh,
Yeah.
we're actually gonna go to Earth, which I guess makes sense because the Green Lanterns, their sectors Earth. Like there's different Green Lanterns that go different sectors of space. The human Green Lanterns, usually their like precinct is Earth.
A
I
lot
know.
of bureaucracy in the Green Lantern universe.
There is. There's so many rules to the Green
A lot of
Lanterns.
red tape, a lot of filling out forms, and
They're like, wait, you can't do that. Mark actually mentioned Jessica. Wait, which version was that, Cat? I never heard that Jessica came from Earth 3. So she just came from the Earth 1, but Earth 3 like came into Earth 1 in that story, and they like took over, and that's how Jessica was getting those powers. It was in the New 52, so a while ago. But yeah, the True Detective thing, I like that James Gunn has a style. And that's what made Marvel. I don't think that DC had one style. It was the very dark colors. So that's like seems like every movie has a different style, which I think is important.
yeah, I think that in the beginning, the DC movies sort of had a look and feel, and then they were like, "Never mind, we don't like that." And then for a while, it was just like everything was sort of its own thing. So some of them would be great, and some of them would be and there was sort of no consistency. But I like that he's like, this is kind of the overarching thing that we want to do. But each individual project kind of has its own vibe because, like,
Right.
a Green Lantern True Detective sounds a lot different to me than like a Themyscira Game of Thrones situation, but presumably there'll be some sort of, similar universe that they're operating in. But I think it is interesting to hear at least different genres. Like Amy mentioned, there's going to be like a little bit of a horror tinge to some of these projects as well. So that gives me kind of some excitement that they're doing some different stuff.
For sure. Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to wait for to get Amy's take on the Lantern. She's very well versed in all things Green Lantern.
She is. When I think about Green Lantern, I think Amy knows all the lanterns, every
I
single
think
color.
definitely Amy's on top of the lanterns. She knows all about it. I think we had gotten through Waller and Superman. I guess the other big one I think is Bat so on this Den of Geek article there's Batman Part 2, which is
Right.
not the James Gunn proposed Batman. So
Yeah, this is
the
Elseworld.
yes. So the Matt Reeves Batman is still going to exist. I'm sure the only thing that DC said was you can do whatever you want. Don't you touch Batman. Don't you even make direct eye contact with Batman. He is the only thing we've ever managed to figure out. So the Matt
You
Reeves,
literally can make your own Batman, but don't touch that man.
you can make your own Batman. Keep him away from Pattinson. Our Pats is in a corner just eating pasta in his hands.
Wouldn't be surprised.
What a legend. So yeah, that is going to continue, still coming out. I think it's tentatively for like October 2025, but now that Batman is like an Elseworlds, I believe. That I
Yes.
think he said anything that's not in like sort of his proposed projects, they're all going to be Elseworlds. So some of the animated stuff, presumably some of like the TV stuff like Superman and Lois is now an Elseworld.
The two actors from Abbott Elementary is going to be in Harley Quinn. I'm so excited.
So exciting. I
Yeah,
saw that
love
today
it.
and I was so pumped about it.
Are you
Yeah,
guys talking
Quinta.
about Elseworlds?
Elseworld. We're talking about the Batman being an Elseworld story.
The Batman is
The
continuing.
Harley Quinn is an Elseworld story.
I think he says that in the video that like literally anything that is not something that I have approved is Elseworlds.
Yeah.
Which
Which
is okay.
I mean makes sense. Like that's why you have a multiverse, right? Like my big drawback here was that like yeah, sure the DC stuff has been kind of hit or miss for a while, but I did kind of like that like some of the DC stuff didn't feel like homework. You could just like drop into a TV show
Yeah.
and you didn't have to be like
Watch Shazam.
oh yeah, have you watched the last 5 movies? You're not going to understand this. Like the Marvel stuff, as much as I really enjoy it, it is kind of like it's kind of time.
It's a little much.
It's like work. It's like how you have to do homework to go see a movie. Like, ooh, did you not see WandaVision? You're really not going to understand Multitude of Madness.
You're
It's
gonna
like
be
what I have
lost.
to watch. I have to watch 8 episodes of a TV show to watch a movie. So the one thing I did like about DC was that like the TV didn't really connect with the movies, and you could just watch the TV shows and be happy, or watch the movies and be okay, and you didn't need to like cross-reference a bunch of different things. But that Marvel format, I mean, it works for a reason, right? Like you do feel like you have to watch all the things to watch, to go see the movie everybody's talking about. So it does kind of force you to go see movies even that you're not super interested in.
We do have Rebecca says Superman and Lois was always an Elseworld because it refused to acknowledge Supergirl.
Exactly. How dare they?
And just because they're listed as Elseworlds, I think because he's actively listing it as Elseworld means that you have the option to continue to make it. Like they could make the Batman Returns. Like they could do whatever they want for the next version of Robert Pattinson's Batman safely. It just will not exist. You will not have any possibility of seeing any of the characters we're going to see on these screens with James Gunn stuff coming into the Batman. Like it won't be possible. And so at least it sets very firm lines. Like I said, I'm very fond of his elevator pitch. 6 minutes was very informative. It was very, very well done. Very clear.
Yeah, and I like the idea of them having Elseworlds that still can exist. So, like, I guess they're doing that Penguin TV show on HBO Max. God knows
Who
why.
asked for it? But yeah.
Gotham Knights.
They were like,
Nobody
oh
asked
my
for.
God, everybody was so excited about the fat suit that Colin Farrell wore. Could he just wear that for like an entire TV show? And somebody greenlit that. So good on them. But yeah, that would be an Elseworld, even though it would connect in with the Batman. But it's not the sort of the James Gunn version, so obviously it's sort of its own thing.
My dog is getting very excited about our conversation.
I see that Mark said that I got the impression that they'll actually come up with an Elseworlds title card for these projects. I wouldn't be surprised.
That'd be very cool. I think that's on brand. So
just let people know. I want to just take one step back. We were talking about the Green Lanterns, and I know that you have like a lot to say. You have a lot of opinions about it, so I want to give you space. Yeah, I mean, you're our Green Lantern expert, so I wanted to give you space to really tell us all about the lanterns. How many of them are there? And
are you getting your Green Lantern ring?
Okay, Google, who is Green Lantern?
You're gonna get many answers because there's many Green Lanterns.
The answers will not be informative.
Comic books published by DC Comics.
Oh. And that is the extent of my knowledge of.
There you go. Amazing. Now, Amy. Okay, if I'm gonna pitch you something. See if you're more interested in Green Lantern now. They're gonna be hot.
Some of them are.
Okay, 100% will be hot. It is TV. But they're gonna be on Earth as detectives in a true detective-like style. Is that so more interesting?
From what I gathered, it's not that they're like Earth detectives. They are
hot.
Oh, so hot.
It's not hot. For anybody who's listening to this, Kat just pulled up the not hottest looking Green Lanterns I've ever seen. He actually, like, I'm sure he's a real nice guy. I'm sure he has a really nice personality, stable income, really good skills with cats. But he sort of actually looks like a rhinoceros. Like he looks like a white rhino mixed with what was that Pinky in the Brain? He looks like Pinky from the Okay, Kat, you're not helping.
I mean, this squirrel one, obviously great.
A little much.
Oh, he's tiny though. Look at how small he is.
Not there.
How dare you? Oh, wow. He's been hitting the gym. He just got real cool.
The squirrel gym is just lifting 6 nuts instead of 5.
Yeah.
What was the question?
How excited are you for Green Lantern?
We were talking about something else before that, and we got distracted. Oh, the cop thing. So from what I was gathering, it sounds like they are literally like space cops who just happen to have been assigned Earth as their precinct. It doesn't sound like they're actually cops on Earth.
That is the Green Lantern. That's like that is Green Lanterns. That's like you got to come up with a concept for Green Lantern. That's it. So they are space cops. That's like the point.
For not knowing anything of what I'm talking about, I'm doing
a
pretty good job. So like Earth is their assigned precinct. So I kind of like this idea. Like I really hope that they have like a bullpen, but in space. Like I hope that it's not. It's either that or it's.
They have a planet.
Dungeon.
They have a planet.
I really am very good at this stuff. Like I've got great ideas that could maybe be turned into a couple comic books.
I'll show you what the planet looks like.
The space precinct.
You just give us a pitch for that squirrel guy, and
he's a popular guy. He's big.
That's not his name. A guy. Big. So
this is the planet.
It's beautiful.
It has the big Green Lantern thing. That's like where they get all their energy from, is that lantern. Like that's literally how they have powers, and it's on Oa.
That's really cool, actually. That looks really pretty.
I'm telling Green Lantern's a cool character.
I'm excited. No, I've always heard good things, and I'm
gonna
very
get
excited.
there with Green Lantern one day, Kat. I think this could be it for me. I told Amy, I think you were gone, but I've gone on record on Supergirl Radio as saying I don't care for Green Lantern. I just I can't.
Is this your 2%?
Yeah, I'm at like 2% with Green Lantern. Yeah, on the well, I'd probably watch a Constantine thing before I'd be like, yeah, Green Lantern. But
That's saying
you
something.
know, just like a nice. Is it a movie or a TV show? It's a TV show, right?
TV show.
Well, that's a big
Even
yes.
better. Oh, there's ways to explore all these characters.
I'm
If they can
excited. I
get
think
the
it's gonna
squirrel
be
in
fun.
there.
I like the idea of super cops on Precinct Earth, especially if it's literally them like tracking down other space things. Like other aliens that should not be there. Something's done that before. What has done that before?
Men in Black?
Yes, but like things that are appearing that should not be. Maybe it's reminding me literally of Legends. Like them. I mean, God, that'd be so much fun. Can you imagine them just going around and being like, "You're a dinosaur that's in the Royal British Navy. That's wrong." Like,
but I think True Detective. I think Royal.
That's what I think as well. It's gonna be. They're gonna be like, time is a flat circle. How did that dinosaur get here?
Yeah, but I would be game for that, like kind of a Legendsy feel for it. I think it could be fun to tap into a more relaxed vibe with it. Especially, isn't there rumor that it might be Greg Berlanti's version?
I know this was originally supposed to be.
Yeah,
but now they're retooling it, so I don't know.
Unclear whether it will be or will not.
Yeah.
I know that
could be cool.
We talked about it before, I think, but they just re-signed Greg Berlanti, I believe.
They did.
A WWE Discovery to like another 1,000-year deal or something.
I heard re-signed, and I literally, my brain was like, "You mean like they made him a Sagittarius instead of an Aquarius?" Like in my brain.
Yes, they gave him a new
horoscope.
astrological sign. Can you believe that they can do anything in Hollywood?
Gave him a new birthday. It was really fun.
Anywho, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So after Lanterns is The Authority, which apparently is supposed to be like, according to James Gunn, this end-all big what?
What?
It's gay.
It's
Is
gay.
it?
There's two characters, Midnighter and what's the Superman type? So Midnighter is like Batman. I think the Superman type character is Apollo, and the only difference between them is that they're gay for each other. And they're on this team.
Fascinating.
I like it. I'm game. We need more diversity. Like I'm so down.
Now
what's interesting?
Now I'm
What else
questioning,
is this about?
was Midnighter in Stargirl or different?
No, that's a different character. I think you're thinking about.
They all kind of, I hate saying this, but there's so many superheroes with very similar names that I'm always like, wait, was it in that thing or was it in this thing?
Mm-hmm.
It also, he also kind of looks a little bit like a character that was in Watchmen. So now I'm like confused.
Yeah, they are. Well, because they're all based off like Midnighter again is supposed to be like Batman, and that Owlman character is supposed to be like Batman from Watchmen.
Yep.
So they all look the same.
Oh, I see.
That's what I was thinking of.
But I have not read much of The Authority. I honestly haven't even read that much of Midnighter and Apollo. They show up every once in a while. They're probably the more popular aspects of The Authority. They're a 90s property. 90s comics were something. Comics almost went bankrupt during the 90s, so it was something. But yeah, it was based on Jim Lee's imprint, which is Wildstorm, and it has its fan base, but it's not a very popular team, right? It's not, again, you don't know The Authority because they're not that popular.
I see Rebecca in the comments says Morgan is thinking of Dr. Midnight, whose actual name is Charles McNider. Exactly. Thank you, Rebecca.
That 5 times fast.
That is
Charles
exactly what
McNider.
I was thinking of. It's kind of confusing. And Kenneth in the chat says the Authority is like an anti-Justice League.
So James Gunn is saying that this is going to be like the big end-all movie. Like this is going to be, he didn't say it, but he very much suggested this is like their version of the Avengers or Endgame. Like this is going to be one of those films that sets up a bunch of stuff. Why? How? Who?
It also
Yay,
says
Superman.
it's the fact the movie will be a purposeful spin-off off of Superman Legacy, which okay.
A purposeful
I don't know how
spin-off?
those things intersect.
Well, it looks like if I'm looking at my notes right here, that will be
Oh.
those are the two side by side movies.
Yeah.
Lanterns will be in the middle, but then Authority
Which is
and
TV
Superman
show,
Legacy are side by side, and then after that you get Paradise Lost, which is a movie, and it apparently is like a Wonder Woman prequel that's in the style of like Game of Thrones, which
This is one that I'm like, I don't know, guys. I don't
No,
know if this is
really?
gonna be for Kat. You
It-
don't
well,
like
it's
Game of Thrones.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Amy, I think this is also a TV show, not a movie.
Did I?
For
I
HBO.
literally meant TV show.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I have I have mixed feelings about this. I love fantasy and I love Game of Thrones, but I don't
I want a
I don't
sword.
know. I don't know. They're gonna have to
Game.
they have to win me. Of course, the mascara, politics and intrigue. I'm winning myself back over. That sounds pretty awesome.
I
And
know,
there's
right?
no
But
men
like,
in the show either, so it's gonna be
Oh.
interesting.
But
Hmm.
it's prequel, and I can very much see like they could have menemies. So
Menemies.
They could. They're from what I remember, and this was, I don't read that much Wonder Woman, but there was like a tribe kind of connected Themyscira, which were all men, and that was a story that I don't remember very well, but that was a story. I'm curious to see where it goes because I don't think Wonder Woman gets a lot of love, but Themyscira has never been the most interesting part of me for Wonder Woman, but maybe that's why I don't read much Wonder Woman. But the movie did a great job with Themyscira, so.
That's true. I think like
Agreed.
the was it the second movie? I think my favorite part was like that little race at the beginning.
And there's not much to love in that second movie.
Some good outfits, some good 80s fashion. That's about it. I see Abby in the chat says Paradise Lost sounded interesting. One of the ones I'm pretty intrigued about. So
And-
yeah, that one I go back and forth on because I feel like maybe it might just be that I'm like burned out of everyone trying to make their own Game of Thrones. And I'm like, no, not another Game of Thrones. But honestly, when I think about it on paper, all of those things I like. I like Themyscira. I like political intrigue. I like, fancy fantasy costumes. It's going to be fun.
So I'm seeing some suggestions on like Nerdist about how this might have to do with maybe the actual Greek gods who influenced the creation of Themyscira as a place for women who were basically killed too soon or did not get a chance to be the warriors that they were meant to be. And there's storylines involving Hercules. And like, I actually genuinely love the idea of a real dark, gritty DC film or TV series that somehow involves Greek mythology. So down. I would love that because I feel like every time someone tries to do a Greek mythology thing, they muck it up. I cannot remember the last time someone nailed Greek mythology besides books. Books do it great, like the Song of Achilles. Even though that's not technically, sort of Greek mythology.
Technically not
Anywho.
a book?
What?
I think she read it.
You're like, not technically what? That's what I'm saying. What do you say? Not technically what? You
No,
left me
it's
on
a book.
cliffhanger.
No,
Okay,
no,
good.
The Song of
What
Achilles
was
is
it?
a book.
Okay.
You
You said not technically something, and now I want to know what it is.
I don't know if it's technically Greek mythology.
That
Like
makes
it's
more
not
sense.
it doesn't involve the gods. It is Greek history, but I don't think it involves the gods. You would really like it, Kat. I've only read snippets of it and it's on my list. You would love it.
You know what? We'll have a book club episode one day, and that could be the one.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in here for that. I would love to. I really hope that does well because I would love to have a kick-ass DC version of like what's the new Game of Thrones that's out right now?
House of the Dragon.
Yeah, that.
Stunning. I see Rebecca says the one that Amy referenced included the Amazon backstory and Hercules.
Yes,
Um,
that would be what I meant.
she says that concept of the Paradise Island comes from George Perez's run, which actually,
That's fun.
now that I think about it, I think I might have read a bit, if not a bunch of it, way back when. But yeah, I like the mythology stuff that they play up in Wonder Woman in some of the older comics, like the 80s ones. So that could be really fun.
So next up on the list is the thing that I am very curious to hear what Kat has thoughts on. It is their Batman Brave and the Bold?
Oh, so many thoughts. I like the
Yeah.
idea that they have the Bat family involved. I think that's cool. I don't love Grant Morrison's run of Batman, and that's what this is based on. It's based on his run and him introducing Damian. I like Damian a lot as a character, but I actually hated Damian when he was first introduced because of this run. He was just a
Really?
little brat with no redeeming qualities. But what I love about Damian is when he started getting layers when other people started writing him. Which is interesting because I mentioned one of my favorite Superman stories is Grant Morrison's Superman, and they're now doing Grant Morrison's Batman, and I don't love it. So we'll see where it goes. I think what's really interesting about the current plans for the DC universe, movie-wise and TV show-wise, they're pulling from a lot of very recent stories. Like Grant Morrison's run is maybe a decade old, but like the Supergirl story is maybe a year old.
Literally like last year, yeah.
And the Wonder Woman one is also heavily based on Kelly Sue DeConnick's Wonder Woman, their Themyscira book, which also came out like 2 years ago. So it's just very wild that they're basing these books on things that are just so recent.
I wonder if that gives them an opportunity to create a third bridge of connection and actually at some point connect the films to the comics themselves.
They've tried in the past to do tie-ins, but I think unless like the film actually says go read this comic to see the rest of the story, I don't know how successful it would be. But they've tried. They've tried to do like, oh, you know, read the prelude of this movie in this comic.
Yeah. Okay, so that's. Do you have any thoughts on Brave and the Bold, Morgan? Do you have any connection with like the Bat family or Damian?
I like the title because it sounds like a soap opera. So first off, I'm in.
Yeah.
I hope that somebody has like a missing relative that was dead that just pops up. Maybe somebody interrupts a wedding in some dramatic fashion. That's what I'm expecting from this movie. I don't think I'm going to be getting any of that.
Twin brother had a baby with his wife's sister.
Exactly. That's what I want.
The Brave and the Bold's a very old concept at DC. It just means it's a team up book. No drama, sadly. Actually, it's opposite. It's usually just one-offs. It's usually like, here's like a one and done story that you don't really need to read anything else for, and it's just like fun.
Yes, like Rebecca said, evil twins, and I feel like this is how
they're frozen.
This is how we can move the two Batmans together.
I like it.
But yeah, no, I've seen Damian Wayne and stuff. I don't always love him. I find him to be often kind of whiny and stuff. I haven't read this particular run. So
if you think he's whiny other places.
Yeah,
I've heard most whiny.
I've heard this is where the whininess begins. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in what they're gonna do. I think that the Damian aspect of it, if it's done right and it's like not the sort of the typical, and then you add in a kid, but he's got a lot of emotions, I think then it could be kind of interesting. But I like the team up aspect and the family aspect of it's kind of interesting, but without context on the comic, I'm not really sure if I'll like it.
I do want to mention Mark's comment really quickly. James Gunn's tweeted the comics they're based on, and then they sold out. Like, that's how you do it. And I love hearing that. It's just being able, look, I would love hearing more if those creators had bigger royalties and that they would be making more money than just DC or, you know, Marvel when they tweet those things. But I think it's cool anyway you could get people into comics.
I like that they're basing some of these properties on like specific comic books and specific like runs, so that like they can say, hey, this one's based on the Brave and the Bold, and you can go like, oh, okay, let's find out what that's about, and you can just go and buy it. You know, same with Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I think that's really gonna amp up all the sales of all these books, which is great, and get more people in reading them.
Is there any reason to think that we will have been introduced to the Batman character before this? Besides in potentially Flash, but then things get reset. Superman Legacy, he may or may not show up. Authority, he may or may not show up. It may be a long time before we actually meet whatever Batman is going to be the Batman for James Gunn's The Gunverse. Is that like that sounds terrible.
I liked it. I kind of like
The Gunverse. So like the DC Gunverse, there you go. It looks like that might be the first time we actually get introduced to him, and I'm still like, I would still love Jason O'Mara to be, because he voiced Batman in a lot of the animated films,
the animated stuff,
and I really like the voice that he provides it. I think he'd be a really fun Batman, but he'd be a little bit on the daddy Batman side, a little bit older.
Look, Damian has a father.
I'm so okay with this. Jason Momoa, he just did a really good job whenever he was talking to Damien's character. He had a very clear, distinctive voice for I'm Batman in this moment, and I'm actually your guardian in this other moment. Like, I liked he had a very distinctive tone shift, and I hope that that's something that they're able to effectively do in this movie, because I think that this is going to be a family movie in addition to whatever action movie they want to create. So after that is Booster Gold.
Right.
You remember him?
Yeah.
We all do.
They can just take they already have casting for him. Let's get Turk in there.
Apparently
That's actually what they're gonna. That's what
they
they're
have a
gonna
TV show.
do. Is that TV show? I thought it was a movie.
Nope.
Oh
it's
wow.
TV. I hope that some of these shows are not 7 seasons long. As much as I love Legends, I really hope that some of them are like 10 episode runs. Like, that's it. Like, it's 10 episodes and then it's done.
Yeah, well, I keep getting confused because I was like, aren't they also doing a Booster Gold TV show? But no, it's Blue Beetle that they're doing a movie for. And
Yeah.
Booster Gold is going to be the TV show.
Which
so
you know they are related.
That's why I was
like,
confused.
Not this
that's
version,
why I get
but,
confused. Yeah.
Explain, please.
So Jaime is not actually related to Booster Gold, but Ted Cord, as you guys know, is. They're just besties. But
Gotcha.
Jaime is really nothing like Blue Beetle, like the other one. Like they in the comics they've connected them enough that Ted becomes like a mentor to Jaime. But Jaime's like space deal, and Ted Cord is just a smart guy who has money, like a Batman. So yeah, I don't know if they'll be connected at all, honestly.
Yeah, so the Den of Geek article I'm looking at says it's about the show is going to be about a superhero's imposter syndrome because he uses basic technology from the future to pretend to be a superhero in the present day. Apparently they're already talking to an actor about the role, so we might get more details on this fairly soon, says Den of
That'd
Geek,
be really
but
cool.
that would be nice to know. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of getting more information sooner rather than later, because I like hypothesizing to an extent, but there's a point where we can only hypothesize so much before we end up on a completely, unrelated spiral that's not going to make any sense. Now, the next one. So Booster Gold. So again, we went Paradise Lost, Batman movie, Booster Gold TV show, then the Supergirl film. Morgan's little face.
Finally,
So
finally.
gorgeous.
I saw on Den of Geek they're saying approximately 2027. So
It's gonna be a little
It's
while.
not that far away though. That's only
It
4 years.
feels
Oh my
really
god, that's only
far.
4 years.
It feels really far. Now,
That's a
what I-
whole high school career for someone.
Exactly. A small child has started and ended high school in that amount of time.
A small child.
A small child.
That sounds sus.
It does. So what was interesting to me is that we were trying to figure it out on Supergirl Radio because we were like, okay, if Superman is coming out sometime in like 2025 and they're saying Supergirl is going to be like 2 years behind that, so we mathed it out, and apparently it's just in this article. I guess they mathed it out too. Yeah, 2 years after the Superman reboot is going to be Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Obviously, that is based off of the comic book from last year, written by Tom King and with Bilquis Evely's beautiful art. So it is going to be a harsher Supergirl than we're used to seeing. And it's gonna, I would assume they're gonna keep the sort of the space western vibe of that book, but maybe they won't. Who knows? Because he says that a harsher and more messed up Supergirl than we're used to seeing, because unlike her cousin, Kara was already a teenager and remembers the demise of her family and friends on Krypton. But we haven't gotten confirmed that it's going to be the same storyline, but I would hope that if they're calling it Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow and basing it on the comic, we would get that sort of space western vibe where, her and the girl Ruthie that she is protecting and kind of going around with go on adventures throughout the book.
It's like The Last of Us meets Firefly meets
like This Is
Supergirl.
Us.
It's like The Last of Us meets This Is Us meets Firefly. Exactly.
But wouldn't that be kind of fun though? Like a Firefly-y vibe? to it, like a little bit
Yeah.
more out there. They're traveling kind of all over the place, and she's got like some serious PTSD that she's dealing with, and
She
she
does.
literally is like, congratulations, this guy got to get away. He's living his happy life off on Earth. And I'd be like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, there's sometimes where people who are like really successful, you're like, nah, like especially family. When family is successful, you're like, nah, not very impressed with that. And you want to get away from it. And so like I could totally see Kara being like, I just want to like live my own life and do my own thing on my spaceship in the middle of nowhere.
I see Rebecca in the comments said I honestly don't know why people say Supergirl is so different in the comic. She cussed and got drunk on the TV show, and she helps Ruthie on a journey, and her characterization is similar to all of her runs. Which, yeah, I kind of agree. It's a little bit of a harsher Supergirl, she's a little bit rough around the edges, but I think that core of her wanting to help people and being very hopeful and like caring about people is sort of intact there. So I felt like it's just sort of a different take on the character, but I'm excited about the idea of like a space Western. I don't usually love space stuff, frankly.
But
But
do you
I
love
think,
Westerns?
and I adore Westerns.
Do
Put a
you?
cowboy. No, I don't.
Name
I
a
don't
Western,
usually,
Morgan.
I don't, I couldn't name any of them,
I
but
can name only one.
what's your Western?
I think it's the gods among us. There are gods among the gods among us. I think the only reason I know is because there's like a famous scene with a rhino in it. Gods
Oh, interesting.
among us.
But No Country for Old Men for you guys.
Oh no!
I was
okay,
thinking of
I
the
typed
one
this
where
wrong. Now
where
I'm
the
getting
girl
a lot
who
of
sings now had like the
religion
two
True
stuff.
Grit.
True Grit. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kat, for knowing what I was meaning by like.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, yeah, like she's got the little like
Well, you mentioned a
pigtails.
girl in a Western. I feel like that's the
She
only
used to
movie that has a
sing.
girl in a
She sings
Western.
now.
She is Spider Gwen in
she is.
in Into the Spider-Verse.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like I think it does have a very True Grit vibe to it, the comic book, and I think
And I would love that.
I think
mean,
that
he
could be fun. Yeah.
Talks about how it's gonna be dark, and then it's gonna lead straight into Swamp Thing, which is horror.
I think at least it'll be different from the TV show, which is if I'm getting a movie of a
Yeah.
character I've already had a TV show of, I want it to be a little different. I'll give you that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll
I
see
think
how it
that's-
ends up being. I hope it's again maybe in the comics I felt a little bit more burnt out just because if you read Tom King constantly, you're like, oh, I read this story before.
Yeah, I would say I think it sounds like it helps that I hadn't read much Tom King
Yeah.
before this run, and I was just like, wow, I really and I mean the art is incredibly beautiful
You
in
can't
that
say
run.
anything
So
bad about that. What's interesting
no.
about his stuff is that like the reason Tom King became so popular is that he did this run on Vision that was very popular. It was about PTSD and it was about like, you know, the American dream. We're like, whoa, this is such a good comic. This is like the best comic that's come out in this decade. And then he did another comic and he did Batman. It's like, oh, this is really fun. Some PTSD Batman. And then you read The Flash, you're like, oh, PTSD Flash. You say, okay. And then Miracle, and then it's Mr. Miracle. Oh, he's sad too. Okay. And every single character you wrote is, oh, you're writing the same story over and over again. I get it now.
Yeah, so I could see from that perspective because again, she is dealing with her trauma. One could say her PTSD. So
Right.
yeah, so I could see if you've read a bunch of Tom King and he's kind of going over the same emotional ground with a bunch of these characters, how you could get to this one and be like, again. But for me, who hadn't read it, I was like, "Ooh, what an interesting take on the character." There's also like dinosaurs. I think there was a dragon at one point. It's a Amy. I think you would really like it, Amy. I think it also helps that it's 8 issues, so like you can get in and out of that thing pretty fast.
And what you don't know is that in the middle of the end of this film, Sarah Lance just swoops in and they're all just flying their spaceships together. And it's just this real awkward moment where like the spaceships kind of look at each other. And then they go different directions. It'd be so great.
Yeah, let's get the legends in here somewhere.
Let's get
on
the
this
legends
slate.
in here. All right, and then the last thing is Swamp Thing, which I'm still
very
really
excited
fixated
for.
on this concept of what James Gunn said where Supergirl leads into Swamp Thing, because he literally says, and that leads into. So there's two ways to interpret it. That could literally be and the next movie after that is Swamp Thing, but it very much sounds like it's going to be connected.
What if Comet escapes the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow? Oh, by the way, Amy, I'm trying to sell you on reading this comic. Comet, the super horse, is also in this comic.
That's where Comet the super horse comes from?
It's not where he comes from, but he
Just
makes
reference.
he makes a triumphant appearance in this book.
Is that the one
Crypto is
Didn't I
also
read
in
a
it.
fan fiction about Comet the super?
You sure
the
did.
super horse?
He came around, I think, sometime in the Silver Age when things were a little bit wackier. But they brought him back for this run, and Crypto. So there was a lot of pets in the Woman of Tomorrow run.
Rachel says that there's no way that if Comet the super horse is in this, there's no way it could be dark. And I will tell you that is not true. Have you seen the Never-Ending Story?
That's true. That's true. That thing had a big creature, and that thing was dark.
We do have a comment from Claire. Lanterns is like True Detective. Paradise Lost is like Game of Thrones. Can we pitch a DC version of White Lotus? Which I am watching season 2 very slowly because I've been watching with my family. So
I've
we're on
not seen
episode
season 1, but I know
4.
of it.
It's a cool show. I've been enjoying it. So what is the White Lotus version? They want legends to run the hotel.
I think that'd be perfect because I think that everything would go wrong and somebody would die like every
Just
year
Gideon.
at their hotel. Like,
That would be
oops,
funny.
another murder.
But yeah, so that kind of wraps up the timeline. And it sounds like that's only like he said it was their next. I think he said 5 to 10 year plan. He seemed very flexible on the times.
He probably does. He's like, yeah, this sounds
He's like,
good enough.
when I finish writing it, like I can't, like having to finish one story is enough, but I can't imagine having like literally 6 and you're writing all of them. You're like, my brain is gonna explode.
He
I
probably
saw
should
Start
give some
delegating.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah, he should
that
probably
is-
give someone something.
That is
James
my
Gunn.
concern. Now I'm
Catherine
on-
Calamia is available for hire.
Hey, I'm here.
Uh,
I'll write
I-
Green Lanterns.
yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Thank you. Right on. Right on. Well.
I see on the Den of Geek article that they said that the Swamp Thing might have a director in place. Now, this is like maybe not confirmed, but it said none other than James Mangold, who I guess worked on Logan, is in talks to do the Swamp Thing
Interesting.
movie. So that could be interesting. So at least he's like, I guess I could have another director do one of these things.
Only one though.
Just
He's
one.
like, I
no.
like Swamp Thing the least.
Okay, so speaking of, if you had to go through this list, which are you each personally the most excited about, and which are you the least excited about?
Most excited about probably Green Lantern, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably most excited for Green Lantern. Least excited about? Honestly,
Cat.
Waller.
I want to say Supergirl. I'm very sorry.
Yes!
I'm so sorry. No. You know what?
How dare
Themyscira. I'll give it.
Okay,
Themyscira.
thank you.
Game of
Thank
Thrones,
you.
I'll give a
Yeah,
chance.
we
to
knew you
Supergirl.
wouldn't like that one. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
though.
so I'll go to Themyscira on that one.
What about you, Morgan?
I'm most excited about No,
I'm excited for Amanda Waller, so I can't say Amanda Waller is the one I'm least excited for. Because if you watch Peacemaker, you got to be a little excited for Amanda.
Peacemaker. Yeah, Peacemaker is really good. So I think the Amanda Waller show will also be really solid.
Okay.
I'm obviously most excited for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Least excited.
You're allowed to say Green Lantern.
No,
You're
you know
allowed
what?
to
I
say
want to
it.
say Green Lantern because, again, I don't care for Green Lantern, but I at least know who Green Lantern is. I think I'm least excited about the Authority. I don't know who they are. I don't really care that much.
They're
Like I
apparently
feel like
in charge.
they're having like it's going to be a big movie. It's going to be a big thing, like a big tentpole of this whole plan. And like I don't have any frame of reference for these people, so sorry, the Authority. I'm not that jazzed.
I think I'm actually genuinely excited for Lanterns, and then I'm really excited for Paradise Lost. Sorry, Kat. This might be our divisive.
Okay.
This is
okay.
We will definitely podcast about it because 2 of the 3 of us will be very stoked about it. I think
we'll podcast about it. I'll watch one episode.
Yeah. Maybe this these could all be the things that get us into things. Like I could finally like I'll be like, yeah, no, I'm a Green Lantern super fan. Amy will know what the lanterns are and like all their different colors and all their
Well
different
done.
like squirrel critters.
There's more, Henry.
Huh? We talked about this.
I was busy. I had to run out.
It's like
That's
a
funny.
mood
No.
ring, Amy. There's like a million.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Colors.
That's right. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I recall the mood ring of the lanterns. No, I would love like Paradise Lost to have a like literally to have that Greek mythology aspect in it. And I think that there's a lot of potential for relationships and that kind of stuff. Like I really enjoy the potential you could have in creating a world that you're never going to see these characters again. Like this could be a super prequel. This could be hundreds of years ago. We're never going to potentially see these characters again. And I love the idea of what we could create with that. I would, like just like the Game of Thrones prequel. We literally know what's going to happen, but we are very much enjoying watching the story unfold because you get to see the characters in a way that you can't read about on paper. So I'm game for that.
Yeah,
I'm
I
at
do
least
like
excited
the...
for probably the Authority because I have no idea what's going on.
I feel like Booster Gold. I'm also
Booster
like,
Gold. I'm also not thrilled about.
I don't know. I kind of forgot about that. Now I'm like, Themyscira sounds better than Booster Gold.
We're like, I like talking around at Themyscira
is-
because I was about to be like, oh, I really do. Now that the more I think about it, the more I like the kind of prequel aspect of
Yeah.
it. Like Amy said, it takes place so long ago that
Yeah.
like they can kind of do what they want and it doesn't have to intersect with anything, which kind of gives me my standalone vibes that I like sometimes.
Mhm.
There is a cat lantern, and he is a red lantern. He's
ooh.
mean.
There's a cat lantern.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Hold on,
Ooh.
guys. For you guys listen to audio this time, this is why you gotta be on our live shows, which we may or may not do.
You get to watch Cat type and Google search in real time.
It's-
Oh,
Look at
he
that.
looks mad though.
He is. That's the red
He looks-
lanterns are
He looks
angry.
like a bad boy.
They have
He's a
blood
bad
spewing
kitty.
out their
Ew.
mouths usually.
Gross.
Yeah, you want to see a red
Oh,
lantern
no.
here?
No, oh gosh.
What red lanterns look like? They always have blood like spewing out of their mouths.
That's a lot.
It's like
That's a lot of
Inside Out,
work.
but for Green Lanterns.
Yeah. Look
Is
at
there-
they have-
Yeah,
look-
Okay.
That's what. Okay, Amy, 100%. That's what Green Lantern, like the overall thing. That's what it reminds me of. It's like Inside Out. Like they all have their like complex emotions and they're all color coded.
Is there like an Avatar lantern, like one that can feel all the emotions
White lantern.
correctly?
So this one right on
Oh.
the right over the white lantern is like a culmination of all of them.
So that one's perfectly balanced and everybody else
Yes.
is not. Green is hope, you said?
Willpower.
Oh.
Hope is
Okay, what are the lanterns?
okay.
Lecture
So
me,
black
teach
is
me.
death.
Ugh.
Red is rage. Orange is greed. Yellow is fear. Green is willpower. Indigo is hope. No, blue is hope. Indigo, I have to look up. Star Sapphire is love, and then White Lantern. Oh, actually, it's right here. Okay, so fear, life, love, rage, willpower, compassion is indigo. And then greed, death, and hope.
Are there certain
Ah.
ones that attract others? Like
There are certain ones that like deject others. So like willpower, like fear is the weakness to willpower.
that's actually really cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Okay, I'm getting
I-
more and more excited.
I
So
feel like I
lanterns
should-
and Themyscira, I'm here for.
I feel like I should like the Green Lantern vibe more because it's just like astrology girl stuff. Like,
Yeah,
which ones work well with which other ones, right? You're such a green, so like we can't be together
Yeah.
because I'm such a red.
Yeah, according to the daily OA horoscope, you should avoid all indigos today for a potential negative interaction.
That's what it feels
But
like to me.
you'll have really good luck with reds, but only if the sun is out.
Oh
It
wait,
will be that episode, I hope. It'll be a lot of fun.
I can't wait for that.
Get excited for Green Lantern, guys. Get
I'm
excited.
excited. No, I am excited. I'm not unexcited. I just don't have a lot of history. And, honestly, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's nice to have a whole bunch of different, like I'm looking at the list right now and I have 75% of this I don't have much of a history on. Could solid comic book fans do, but even still, like Kat, there are things here that you're like, I maybe didn't like that.
Authority.
I don't know about that. The Authority.
Yeah.
Who knows about the Authority?
Yeah.
And that's good because it gives them an opportunity to grow, bring in a new audience, ultimately sell comics. And
What matters.
yeah, and so realistically, this is a great business model as well as a great like model storytelling wise. So it's got a lot of potential. I'm very excited, and I gotta admit, no matter how you feel about the guy, Guardians of the Galaxy kind of kicked some serious ass. And so you can't fault James Gunn for creating good TV and good stories.
Yeah, I think that I mean, as much as I was like, I don't care about the Authority, I do think I trust him to be able to tell a good ensemble story. So I'm sure Creature Commandos is going to be weird, but probably also fun. I'm sure. I bet the Authority, for all I'm like, I don't care, it'll probably be pretty good because I think James Gunn is pretty good at writing ensembles.
Agree.
Cool.
Definitely agree with that.
Is that going to wrap it up? Do you guys have anything else you want to say except for thank God it sounds like Flash's Flashpoint, and think we can get rid of everything else. Like we have a straight up like precedent for a clean slate, and I love that.
Yeah, that's why
It was always
I think that's
planned.
why they're protecting that Flash movie so desperately.
They
They're
need
like
it to
they're like,
rescind
no,
everything.
it's really just the best movie I've ever seen in my life. That's why we're keeping it. It's like you can
Oh,
just
yeah.
say it's because you need it to reset your universe. Like none of us believe that it's like going to change the face of cinema, you guys.
You go in and it's 4 minutes, and you walk in and there's a title screen, and then it's just the Flash standing there overlooking something and goes, "Oh shit, I fucked up."
The
Cut
end.
to black. And he like starts disintegrating into like the Flash sphere or whatever. And that's it. That is the Flash. And it's not even the Flash. It's literally just Ezra Miller saying that.
And then
Like,
disappearing.
and they put really bad CGI the Flash like outfit over him, and they're like, and there it is. There's the Flash movie. Thanks. Bye.
I love it. I think that's a solid idea for the movie. They're like, it's the best thing I've ever seen. It's a solid 5 minutes.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I think I think we covered pretty much all of the DC news. I'm sure there will be more coming out. I'm sure there'll be like casting news and stuff like that. But right now it's like way too early to even imagine who they're going to cast for a lot of these roles. So I think until then, we just kind of have to, hold tight and see what else comes out. But it is nice that there is some news now. For a while, it was like, I'm working on it. And now, I mean, he gave that like little 6-minute video and kind of outlined it exactly what they're thinking.
Yeah. And like you said, hopefully we do more videos on this, more stuff, more podcasts on it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So I think
who's
that's
rapping?
gonna wrap us up. So I think I'm gonna start with Kat. Why don't you tell us where else you can find us on the internet, and maybe I don't know any projects you might be working on or any people who might be involved in them that maybe we'd heard of.
Maybe
Yeah.
involving hair.
Maybe.
Not the musical.
Maybe.
Everybody who responded and was like, "Oh my god, I didn't know you liked musicals." That's what she means, guys.
No musicals yet. But no, there's no musicals. But yeah, we're doing a hair anthology comic, which means it's different short stories about different experiences with hair. So we have natural hair, balding. We have a space opera type haircut situation going on, which is fun. So different genres, post-apocalyptic story. So if you want to go check that out, because Sterling Gates, who's maybe a Supergirl writer and also a Flash TV writer, might be one of the writers for that. So hopefully you guys go check it
I'm
out.
gonna message you
That'd
and
be
see if
interesting.
the Flash one is who I think it is.
Oh no, Sam Sterling Gates, because he
It's
wrote
Sterling
for Flash.
Gates,
Same
yeah.
Oh,
person.
I thought
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
like you put a comma in there. Sterling Gates, comma, and a Flash writer.
So he has done Supergirl and Flash, and then also
Yes.
Gail Simone's doing a forward for the book, which is crazy. That happened today. So it's gonna be a really cool book. So if you're a DC fan, I think you should pick it up. And also for the link at Comic Uno, I never say that because I'm thinking everyone knows where my links are. But yeah, at Comic, like comic books, and then Uno's UNO. It's pinned right on the top if you want to go check out the project.
And how about you, Amy? Where can people find you?
I am on Instagram, amy.hypnorosky. You know what I should do is change my little name tag right here there from Legendary Amy to this is how you spell my last name. But if you search amy.hyp, it'll pop up. If you guys want a fun conversation coming up on our Patreon, we're going to tell you all about the doppelgangers that we have. If you didn't listen to the most recent episode, I cut some and saved it for a little deleted scene. We have a conversation going up on our Patreon about how there's another Amy Hypnorowski in Buffalo, New York. There's another Morgan Glennon that lives like practically down the street from her.
I know. We're gonna have like a double situation where it's gonna be like Highlander and there can only be one. And I'm sorry, I'm scrappy.
And then, Kat, did we ever find out, did you have a doppelganger?
I did, but not as interesting as yours. So.
Yeah, her doppelganger was just boring.
Yeah.
Sorry, the other cat.
Sorry,
friend.
other cat.
But yeah, that's where you guys can find me on Instagram. You can also find me working for Global Conservation Force, which is literally at Global Conservation Force on Instagram and Twitter. We're doing a really big project right now where we are training rangers in Africa to help protect rhinos from poaching. And we just finished our major anti-poaching ranger class. So basically it's like a 2-week boot camp. And we teach them everything from first aid in the bush to how to track a rhino to how to disassemble a snare to literally how to use weapons and MMA style to protect yourself in the needing to use those skills. So it's a really, really cool project, and it's locals only. So locals in Africa are actively getting paid to help protect the animals instead of having a situation where they might be forced into taking advantage of that natural resource in the area, which is a huge problem for everyone. So anywho, that does it for me. Morgan, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic, and you can also find me as a co-host on Supergirl Radio. We talked a lot about Supergirl actually in this episode, but if you want to hear me talk more about Supergirl, you should check out Supergirl Radio. We do live streams every Tuesday night at 9 Eastern time, and we're slowly but surely making our way through season 1 of Supergirl because I didn't come onto the podcast until like pretty late in season 1. So I think tomorrow night or whenever you listen to this, it will have been in the past, maybe. We're going to be covering another season 1 episode. So we hope you join us and check out Supergirl Radio. I think that's going to do it for this episode. But also housekeeping, you can always find us on Twitter. We're at legends_podcast. You can email us your thoughts on anything that we're talking about at thelegendspodcast@gmail.com. And you can also, as Amy mentioned, find us on Patreon if you want like a little extra bonus content. We have a bunch of different levels, and you can find that at patreon.com/Legends of Tomorrow podcast. I think that's most of it.
That sounds accurate. Email us. Share your thoughts. If you guys have any thoughts about what we just chatted, let us know. Let us know what you're interested in. Let us know if there's any of that group that you are 100% game for. Let us know if there's some that you are not at all game for. And if you know anything about the Authority,
let us know, please.
Let us know. You can be our authority on the Authority.
Whoa, mind is blown.
That's the podcast though. Like that's the podcast for whoever's gonna podcast about the Authority. It's literally just the Authority, like straight up.
I wonder who's gonna be that. I wonder who is the podcast about the Authority. I'm very excited to find out.
Find them.
All right. Anything else?
I think we're good.
I think
All right,
so.
Morgan, close us off.
Sure. Well then, until next time, everyone. Stay legendary.